Yeah, yeah.
Blessed are you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, for revealing the mysteries of the kingdom to your children. Alleluia. 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 The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus was setting out on a journey when a man ran up, knelt before him, and put this question to him. Good Master, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments. You must not kill. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not bear false witness. You must not defraud. Honor your father and mother. He said to him, Master, I've kept all these things from my earliest days. Jesus looked steadily at him and loved him, and he said, there is one thing you lack. Go and sell everything you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. But his face fell at these words, and he went away sad, for he was a man of great wealth. Jesus looked around, and he said to his disciples, how hard it is for those who have riches to enter the kingdom of God. The disciples were astounded by these words. But Jesus insisted. My children, he said, how hard it is to enter the kingdom of God. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of an eagle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. They were more astonished than ever. In that case, they said, who can be saved? Jesus gazed at them. For men, he said, it is impossible, but not for God, because everything is possible for God. Peter took this up. What about us? He asked him. We have left everything and followed you. Jesus said, I tell you solemnly, there is no one who has left house, brothers, sisters, father, children, or land for my sake and for the sake of the gospel who will not be repaid 100 times over. Houses, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and land, not without persecutions, now in this present time, and in the world to come, eternal life. My brothers and sisters, the gospel of the Lord. Again, you're all very welcome to our celebration of Master Day, and a special welcome to Sister Josephine's family. Just recently, I was talking to a classmate of mine who's a priest in a town in the west of Ireland. Not very much different, I would think, than the town of Templemore. And he said to me during the course of the conversation that there were quite a few young adults who were being routinely prescribed antidepressants. And it got me thinking that there seems to be a lot of dis-ease in our society among people, particularly with young people. The gospel story that we've just listened to, we meet a young man who is not at ease with himself. We are told that he is a good living person and a man of great wealth, but there is something missing in his life. And thankfully, he has the wisdom and spirituality and the openness of heart and mind to seek the answer from Jesus Christ.
It said last night that the air
that
broadband
question
isn't
which is
working.
Yeah?
Master, what must I do to inherit eternal life?
He's back.
And Jesus advises him, as he would any one of us, the tenets and basis of the Christian life. Those commandments to love.
Well, I know so yesterday afternoon now, I was down for a few hours,
Respect
so
life.
I
To love.
didn't
I think that one of the most beautiful lines written in any gospel can be found here. Jesus looked steadily at him and loved him. It is only in love that Jesus makes this most extreme command to the young man. Go sell everything you own, give the money to the poor, you will have treasure in heaven, then come follow me. And then that got me thinking about the lives that we live. If we ever have to wonder about what are the most important things in our lives, we just need to think about what we prioritize and the time that we give to those things. There is no doubt that we live in a sporting mad county and country. Hurling, camogie, football, soccer, rugby, athletics. The list goes on and on and on. Education is high on the list, thankfully. Here in our own parish, all we have to do is look at our wonderful schools, both primary and secondary. Our cultural identity is alive and well. Look at the strength of the Kyoto's group here, and the wonderful praises they received from hosting this year's county flag. Our historical society, which keeps alive our important past. The talents of our young people will be visible later this week with the production of Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in Our Ladies. Our social conscience and sense of community is in good health. Support for St. Vincent de Paul, Tidy Towns. In January, again, the students from Our Ladies will travel to Calcutta with the Hope Foundation. Each year there is a scurry and a rigorous selection process for students who want to go to Lourdes to assist those pilgrims who need assistance. As a parish, we have given over €6,500 to Trócaire this year alone. And that's not to mention what you give in support to various other fundraising charities. There tends, perhaps, to be a frantic activity with everything we are involved in. So it is good that we are here today. There is no doubt that we live increasingly busy lives, paying the bills to keep a roof over our heads, food in our bellies, clothes on our backs, school runs, work, after-school clubs, sports training, social outings. As a single man, my head reels at the busyness, and I really don't know how people cope. But is there something missing? In just over a week, I'll be inviting first-year students in Our Ladies to join the parish's Journey in Faith group. What this offers is a place for young people to slow down and waste time. Oh my God, doesn't that sound awful? Waste time. No, we must be active, we must be doing, because the devil makes work for idle hands. What this Journey in Faith group offers is an opportunity to talk about faith, spend a little time with God in prayer, get to know ourselves, each other, and most importantly, God. This will be the 4th year of Journey in Faith, and each year it becomes increasingly harder and harder to get young people and adults to become involved. Why? All we have is 1 hour. Not 1 hour per day, not 1 hour per week, but 1 hour per month. If we can't find the time to slow down in the presence of God, time for religion, spirituality, we will become like the young rich man in today's gospel. A good living man with something missing, with a disease in his life. When Jesus speaks the words, "Go sell everything," it is as if the man is like a rabbit caught in the headlights. The shock and sadness of the prospect of selling everything prevents him from seeing the gaze of Jesus, who looks steadily at him and loves him. Who looks steadily at each and every one of us here this morning and loves us. Go sell everything. In these lines that Jesus speaks, he is making abundantly clear to us that God is nothing but love, plain and simple, and therefore the life of friendship with him, in the richest sense, is a life of total love, self-forgetting love. Sister Josephine Ryan, Sister Dominic, knew and understood this. Born almost 81 years ago in Curraglass, Borrisoleigh, to Michael and Bridget Collins. She understood this total love of God to the point of selling everything and giving her life totally in love of God here in Templemore, just across the road in the Mercy Convent in 1956. It must have been very difficult for her family and parents to see this most beautiful young girl of 18 leaving home. Mother, brother, sister, father, land, in an act of self-forgetting love. In the Gospel story, Peter says, "What about us?" I would imagine that if Jesus had a picture of Sister Josephine, that he would have held it up to Peter, and he would have said, "Here you go. Don't worry about you. Don't worry about what you've given up, because everything you've given up will be repaid to you 100 times and 100 times over." Sister Josephine is almost the antithesis to the rich young man in the Gospel. He was ill at ease and couldn't bring himself to make this act of self-forgetting love that God asks for. Sister Josephine did. And like those words that Jesus spoke to Peter, there is no one who gives everything for my sake who will not be repaid 100 times over. In the last few days, people have said to me, "Which one is Sister Josephine?" And I've said, she was tall, grey-haired, beautiful, elegant, with dignity and quiet. And her face always had a smile. And Sister Josephine possessed that air of comfort and ease that comes only with a great inner peace, a peace given by God. She was formed by her family and by her family in the Upper Mercy Sisters, but she was ultimately formed by God. Thankfully, she had a great, deep spirituality and a devotion to the Eucharist. She was so humble. I'm told that her results from UCD were among the highest in the country, but that information didn't come from her. During her time as congregational leader, nothing could faze her. She was always cool, calm, and collected, but above all, gracious, caring, and kind. Devoted to her family and her community and those she taught. I think Mary's qualities were summed up best by her nieces, nephews, grandnieces, and grandnephews, who referred to her lovingly as Auntie Jo. She was unobtrusively interested. She was caring, loving, and full of fun. All of these qualities, all of these virtues were genuine. You can't fake them. And they came from that inner peace. That inner peace that comes from selling everything, storing up those treasures in heaven, and following God. God looks steadily at us and loves us. Just think about that. God is total love, plain and simple. Let us find the space and the time, as Sister Josephine found the space and the time, to appreciate God's gaze. He's looking steadily at us, His love, because the alternative is unbearable. So I invite you now to stand and we will make our profession of faith. I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. God not made, consubstantial with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us and for our salvation he came down from heaven. And by the Holy Spirit was incarnate of the Virgin Mary and became man.